Welcome everyone to this week's interview. Today I'm talking with Dennis from Pro Motor Engines. Dennis, how are you doing?
Doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to chit chat. As you pointed out, Dennis, like I was a huge fan of TriStar Motorsports. So it's awesome to talk about something that used to be a part of them. But I guess before I get too ahead of myself, can you give us kind of a history of how did PME first begin?
Okay, it kind of like there's two different roads and paths that PME were on. Pro Motor Engine I think goes back to the 60s
Hmm.
with motorsports research. It was in the Chicago area, and they did hardcore racing, a lot of factory projects. And then in the 70s, the founder of PME, Peter Guild, started it, and it kind of spun off of motorsports research. And then they did engines in Chicago area up until the late 80s, and then moved the operations to Mooresville, North Carolina, to where we are, the same building we're at today.
Wow.
And that there's another company, TriStar Motorsports, which also started in the 80s with Mark Smith and two others, and to form a team to, at that time, Winston Cup race, which is so that started. The part of the team was in Northern California, part of it was in North Carolina, part of it was in Washington State, and so we moved to North Carolina in 1990 and actually started racing full time in Cup. Did that for 5 or 6 years, and during that time, our background was engines, so we stayed with that. But so TriStar raced until the late 90s, and then stopped racing for a while, and then mainly focused on engine work. And then around 2003 or 4, Mark Smith, the owner of TriStar, started talking with Peter Guild, and they merged two companies. And that's basically when Pro Motor and TriStar came together, was late in 2004.
Okay. So for you personally, when did you start with the company?
I started working with Mark Smith in 1985, right out of the service. I was 21 years old, just got out of the Navy, wanted to build engines, kind of messed around with stuff growing up when I was a teenager, working on cars, and engines were kind of my thing. And basically, I'd say the best thing I could say is Mark took me under his wing, and he was a person that you work beside. He never made it like you were working for him. So it was from that point on, I worked with Mark.
Yeah, that Mark is one of those guys that you don't hear any bad stories about, and kind of everyone has that same kind of feeling. They're like you felt
Yes,
like you were part of a family, and all that.
absolutely. Yeah, he definitely he was a good teacher and a great person.
Hmm.
And you probably know we lost him almost 4 years now, but
Hmm.
he he's missed, but he laid a good foundation for us to keep traveling on.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed, because growing up, we'd always go visit all the little race shops up there, and that was one thing, even as a fan, that I noticed whenever I would go there. I know when y'all are down in the shop in Mooresville over there in Fitz's old shop, front row now.
Mhm.
Um, I remember the receptionist, not just saying, "Here's some hero cards," but I remember her saying, "Well, you guys want to walk around? Like, I'd love to show you the shop." And when you're up there in I don't know if it's Statesville, but it's where the airport is up there.
Yes,
I
yes,
know. Yeah, I know. Even going in there, and I think that's when Eddie Pardue was with the team, and
sure.
I remember walking in and him taking 30 minutes, and me just thinking, as a fan, it's amazing when you have that culture at a team that even as a fan you're
Yes,
walking in, there's appreciation. It's not who's that annoying guy that's taking photos in our lobby.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. No,
So.
he's a down to earth people for sure. Mark and Kathy and the whole family. Yep.
Mhm. So, as a NASCAR fan, I hear crazy stories about engines from the past. Um, in today's world, I guess specifically in the world of NASCAR, like, is there a lot of wiggle room for messing around with it, or is it to the point to where it is so precise that you don't really have any tricks up your sleeve?
Well, I think you do. It's much more technical now than 30 years ago, 20 years
Mhm.
ago, and beyond. It was, I would say, the sport, it was pioneers. So the things we were doing, we could make a fair amount of horsepower, but
Mhm.
we were all learning way back on how to keep that stuff together.
Yeah.
Now the technical aspect of it is so good, that things are scienced out and tested and developed.
Mhm.
And for NASCAR, as far as the wiggle room, they've taken a lot of that out. It's the box is really tight.
Yeah.
They have found through the process of time and just learning things, and the fact that they can actually measure and test. Where years ago NASCAR, they had general rules for you,
Mhm.
but there wasn't a lot of oversight in smaller areas. Well, now there's almost there's no place to hide. So
Mhm.
they've given you parameters. There's still areas they give you freedom. They give
Okay.
you freedom in the valve train, quite a bit of freedom there. But they keep you in a box on several other things that really, I guess, they dampen that some.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I feel like that stuff's changed. I remember growing up, you would have it seemed like every race 5 or 6 people blow an engine, but even
Yeah,
within 20 years, it's to the point to where if someone blows an engine now, it's almost unheard of. It's
yeah,
very
it's
strange.
definitely the exception now. Yes. Hmm.
So, PME, it's you've had so much success as a company, from Truck Series championships to engine builder awards and all of that stuff. Is there a moment or two that you or the company look at as you're most proud of, or your crowning achievement?
Yeah, I would say that when you say moment, if I could make that a little more, make it plural, there's a championships are big.
Hmm.
Winning races are big. With an independent engine builder at the higher levels, it's very hard. If we could, at those levels, if we can be competitive and have our engine survive and compete, that's kind of where we're at with that
Hmm.
level of racing. Now you get to the Xfinity and truck and beyond. We expect to do better. And I would say championships. Think back to 2000, and I believe it was 2008. Ron Hornaday won 5 races in a row in the Truck Series with our engines. That was pretty neat. Won the championship.
Hmm.
And then a few years before that, maybe 2003, Mike Bliss won. We won back-to-back Truck Series championships. But
Yeah.
the year that Mike won, Dave Fuge he was the owner crew chief then, and he was actually years ago. He was one of the owners of TriStar Motorsports years ago.
Oh, wow.
So it was pretty neat reuniting it with him at that time.
Hmm.
And we won the championship at Homestead by just a handful of points. It came
Hmm.
down to the last race, and so those are big for me personally. I guess selfishly, and not with the engine building competition, which we had with Molly Klebite, uh, my partner and I, that in the competition, Daryl, we won it 3 times, and the second the second year we won it was the most memorable one. Um, to win that competition with Mark being in the crowd, it was just we broke the record, and just just to be there and have him there, because always been a big part of everything I've done in racing, and
Hmm.
it was a good moment.
That's awesome. For anyone who goes to y'all's Instagram or y'all's website, they can see that, y'all are still very, very busy building engines. Even listening, I enjoyed hearing the cars in the background.
Yeah.
What's the toughest form of racing that y'all build engines for?
Boy, that's it used to be you could say, well, it's road racing, because that is so demanding on the engine. We do a fair amount of that. I think really any racing that you get involved in that's new, okay,
Hmm.
it could be grassroots, it could be something that we haven't done. It's just learning all the idiosyncrasies of that platform.
Hmm.
So some of the engines we do at the higher level, I worry less about those than we do on something, maybe a super late model,
Uh-huh.
because you have something more on the edge, or it's not proven, you don't have a lot of history with it. So
Hmm.
so nowadays I'd say we have enough resources to test with. I wouldn't say there's one any worse than the other.
Hmm. I gotcha. Well, Dennis, for those listening at home, if they want to learn more about PME, where can they find you guys online?
Our website, Promoter Engines, or they can Facebook, but well, they can call. You can find us on the web though, for sure.
Mhm. Sounds awesome. Dennis, I really enjoyed sitting down with you today and getting to share a little bit of y'all's story with the fans at home. As you can see, I'm a huge fan of TriStar, and because of that, I found PME. So I've really enjoyed getting to sit down and talk with you today.
All right, thanks, Brandon. All right, take care.
You too.